Hey, this is Seth with In Demand Career. I show people how to get life-changing jobs in digital marketing with no previous experience or education. And that includes my very special guest today, Steven, who was unemployed when he found my course. And just 6 months after taking the course, now has a six-figure job in PPC. Now, Steven's a little bit different than a lot of my other interviews because he's in his late 30s and this was a career transition for him. So it's a bit of a unique story, but I know a lot of you watching the channel can identify with him. So I'm very excited to share his story with you. Thanks for being here, Steven.
Seth, glad to be here and excited to share my story.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. So why don't you tell people a little bit about your current job and what you're doing right now?
Yeah, so my current role, I am the paid media manager at a software company called Sayari. Just top level, Sayari is a white collar criminal software that ties into ultimate business ownership and due diligence and company acquisitions. Currently, right now, we are implementing a brand new team into Sayari. In the past, they've used consultancy and agencies to kind of handle their paid media aspects of the company. The company has just now leveraged their Series C funding for right around $50 million. So they're doing a lot of growth within the organization, really looking to grow their marketing team in-house. So right now, what I'm doing is kind of optimizing the current campaign that's in place and looking to grow out the marketing team here over the next few weeks.
That's amazing. Anyway, you're looking to grow the marketing team, but you just took the course in May of 2021, and it's now November. So you are really new to PPC. How is it? This is what everybody's going to want to know, how you went from that to this position. Are you in a management position where you're kind of like leading the charge with paid media?
Yeah, so right now the actual role is the manager role, and I do head up a team of consultants that but like I said, we're really looking to bring in people in-house. So currently, right now, we're going to run with the contract the contract team to the end of the year, and from now till then, we're going to start doing some hiring and looking for people to bring in underneath the paid media department under my team as well. So yeah, kind of I've done PPC for a little less than a year now, but your course was amazing in showing us how to develop that framework, and from there, I kind of just took it upon myself to run things.
Yeah, guys, this is a very unique story because also Steven has a sales background. He's very good at his communication skills. And I know he was able to, really present himself in a powerful way to get to this point. It's very rare to have a student make six figures so quickly, but it is possible, especially with in-house. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit because you probably watched a lot of these interviews. You know the story, we always go through the journey, but I'll tell you this right away. My first six-figure job in my career was in-house. In-house means you're working for a private company versus an agency. And it sounds like this is the situation. A lot of companies, they have a lot of money. You mentioned before, these guys had like a Series C, $50 million of funding. What ends up happening is these big companies hire agencies, and the agencies either perform or they don't, but they pay these agencies a lot of money. Now, paying an agency 10 grand a month or 20 grand a month is very, very common. That's over $100,000 a year. So what the company probably did in your case is be like, well, why are we spending all this money to pay these guys who are, not part of our company? Why don't we just hire a guy like Steven, and he'll be our guy, and he's like part of our team, and we just pay his salary and he'll work his butt off for us. Is that kind of the situation?
Yeah, and yeah, that's dead on there, Seth. And one of the big problems that the company had with bringing in the outside agencies was understanding the software. They really need someone to speak the language and someone who really understands the ICP, the ideal customer avatar, the ideal customer persona that we're really looking to go after. And with these agencies, they deal with so many different businesses. And so many different industries, they kind of get confused and aren't entrenched in what the company's looking to go after moving forward. So one of the reasons they did bring an in-house team, and not only myself, but we brought in an SEO guy, an email marketing gal, design team as well, because we're really going to build out the marketing team for those who understand and can drive this product moving forward.
Absolutely, dude. That's the same situation it was. I was working in a different industry, and it was a rehab center, but it was the same problem they were having. And, there are good agencies and there's good account managers, and you've heard me interview my students that work at agencies. I'm not knocking agencies, but there's a difference. Like I see some people where it's like, hey, you're selling e-commerce product, you're selling shoes, you're selling weight loss products. I don't know, some very mainstream stuff. It doesn't need as much personalization. But for what you described to me, and I'll just decipher it, is basically you're in a very high level niche company that if I want to buy a bank, what you said, it's like if I'm looking to buy a bank, or you're basically vetting these huge companies to make sure there's no criminals or there's no red flags. And that is a very niche product that I'm sure the average agency, they would be scratching their heads exactly of how to communicate that. So it makes total sense that they would want to bring an in-house team, and it's honestly cheaper for them to build an in-house team. And then there's someone like you who can come in and make six figures. So that's the exciting thing about the in-house world. So let's talk a little bit about how you got into this position. Then we'll talk a little bit more about the position itself. So what was going on in your life when you found the course?
Yeah, so just lost my position. So like I said, spent 15 years in corporate sales, worked for a distributor company here in the state of Florida that dealt with a lot of the Microsoft EA agreements. Really good company. Things were going well. COVID happened. So kind of seeing the end drawing there with the smaller company I was working with. Unfortunately, in sales, when things like this happen, the last one ends usually the first one out, unfortunately. So with me having a little less than a year with the company, I was let go, paid severance package, all that good stuff. And for me, I had certain skills. I am a certified drone pilot. So I knew, like, I've got to do something, right? I don't have a job right now. The odds of me finding a job right here in the heat of COVID was not looking good. So I thought, what can I do with the skills that I've learned over the past few years? So I started out doing just flight, like different. What do I call it? So like before and after photos for construction industry. So some ortho mosaics, time lapse photos. So there were some very niche opportunities I had within the construction industry to go out and make a little bit of money. But once again, working with these private businesses, I wasn't able to really brand my name. A lot of the companies I had to sign non-disclosure agreements. So I wasn't able to say, company B, this is what I did for company A, and this is what I can do for you as well. So I was in a point of frustration where I was making a little bit of money, but I wasn't able to get my name out. At this point in time, I didn't know about digital marketing or running an agency. So I just had to learn. So of course, the person I am, hit up YouTube, hit up Google, got on Reddit, and just really started finding out what courses were out there that could really help me systematically streamline my digital marketing approach that I had before I even started digital marketing, right? So ran across Seth's program on Reddit. So just one night, stumbling upon Reddit, just, kind of figuring out, what my next steps was. I was on R marketing and, seeing this random post, and the guy was like, Seth Himes digital marketing course changed my life. And of course, what do? We hear a name like that. We see that type of statement. The first thing we do is we go to Google and type in, is Seth Himes a scam? So that was the very first thing I did to figure out, who is this Seth Himes guy? Like, what has he done? And then the more that I research, the more I see students of his talk about how the course has changed their life, how it took them from whatever it was they were in their life and put them in a position to get a job in digital marketing. And at this point in time, once again, I'm just flying drones. Didn't understand, the whole digital marketing landscape, and didn't understand that having an agency was just more than me flying drones or me shooting 360 photos in the construction space. So found the course, looked Seth up, seen the information, seen all the testimonials, which really is what sold me. Seeing his previous students talk about, once again, how they knew nothing of digital marketing, how they knew nothing of SEO or PPC or email marketing, but after taking the course, they were able to get an entry-level job. And at this point in time, I needed a job. I needed work. I needed some flow of income. And that's when I took the leap of faith and went ahead and just purchased the course.
Awesome, man. That paints a really vivid picture. And just so people understand, so you were hustling in COVID, you were trying to figure out how to make ends meet, but your previous job, you were an actual salesman, like door to door, like knocking on people's doors and selling stuff, right?
Yeah, so a little different, more businesses. So with my last role, I really worked with companies that made $10 million and plus in revenue, here in Florida, there's a lot of companies that do that, but it was primarily working with companies that had EA agreements with Microsoft. Not to get into the weeds of things, but Microsoft EA agreements a few years ago, they really started out contracts at $500,000. So my goal was to see if companies were actually.
Well, let me catch you off just for a second. I'm sorry, just because I know we've already talked about a lot of high level stuff. I just wanted to get to say you were a salesman, like, so your job is to communicate and persuade people to purchase a product, right? So you had a
100% in the software space.
Right. So you had that communication skill set, which again is not essential for digital marketing, but a lot of my students, even the people who are shy or introverted or have no business experience, as you gain confidence, you build on this skill set. And I tell everybody that, like, sales skill sets and communication, just the ability to confidently communicate your value, is super important. That was kind of where I was going with that. But and I know I could rap with you about the Microsoft thing for a while, but I want to keep us on track back because I know people want to know about the course. So tell us about your experience with the course, because you got in what, May of 2021, you said, and how did it go for you?
Yeah. So, and I just want to say this, and just keep in mind, I do have a software background in sales. So with me going into this course, I kind of knew that I wanted to get back into the software field because that's what I spent the most amount of my time with. So I was super comfortable in the software world, understand the software framework. So going into the course, I kind of had a mindset that I want to get back into the software world, but I'm not sure how. So that's when you dive into the course. And the first thing that, Seth hit us with is make sure you go through this course completely finish the course. Because when I first initially bought the course, I thought, I'm going to skip ahead a couple of chapters and figure out, it was creating your own experience. I was like, let's go straight to creating your own experience and figure out how I can get a job. But then I told myself, no, we're not going to do that. We don't understand what the digital marketing landscape is. And we want to make sure that I have, I'm equipped as much as I possibly can to have conversations about digital marketing and then understanding the nuances of digital marketing. Because I felt like that's where my strengths were going to be, is finding the not so easy, the more advanced tracks to make myself stand out. And going in, I really thought, since I don't have a background in digital marketing, I don't understand SEO and PPC to the fullest of some of the people in the industry, then I really have to go above and beyond to really prove that I belong here and make up for my lack of experience with my own set skill set. That means I'm just going to have to cram as much information as I possibly can in to prove that I understand this industry. So that was a mindset that I had going in, and I promised myself that I was going to keep that mindset throughout the whole entire course. So started Seth's course, once again, was blown away by the information that he gave. There was no fluff, there was no frills. And in each section, he says, this is exactly the information you need to get your job, right? And I kind of, as I was taking notes and I was going through the course, I kept that mindset, let's not get bogged down in the weeds right yet, especially the first time through the course. Let's make sure we go understand and have a high level understanding of what it is that Seth is presenting. And then each time we take the course, we get more and more nuggets out of it. So that's the mindset that I had going into the course, Seth. And just really making sure I took good notes and understood the nuances of the course itself. So after I finished the course the second time, I thought, wow, I really enjoy Google ads. I truly understand the Google ads portion. Facebook ads, not so much as, and I'm still struggling with Facebook to really learn and to become stronger into that section. But, Google ads is something I really collapsed onto. And, the comment that you made in the course about there's over 100,000 PPC jobs, like that really resonated with me, that I don't necessarily have to be the best in this. I just have to be good enough to get a job to be able to learn how to be the best. So that's the mindset that I have. And that's the mindset that I keep right now, even though that I've already blended my position. And I know that there's a period of growth, and you're never going to stop learning.
Yeah, that's a really good. And guys, for you guys watching this, that's why I do the walkthroughs. That's why I share those numbers with you, is because, and I want you guys to really understand why. Because maybe you just think I'm bragging or something. Like, no, there's so many jobs that, like you said, you don't have to be the best. I want you to be the best you can be. You obviously want to strive for excellence. But I remember, for a lot of you, Stephen and I are both out of school a long time. And it's been 20 years since I was in high school. But I forget, you're coming out of high school. I remember the pressure that you guys are under and all the comparison with all the people on social media, and you see this success and that success. And then you got to get this grade and that grade and this award and this standardized test. You put this pressure on yourself where you always think you have to be perfect and the best, and it's never enough. And the whole point of the course, and the reason people love it so much and have so much success, because that's not true. You don't have to be the world champion in PPC. Literally get the skills, help the business, And you've heard story after story where just because you have this knowledge, you can get hired. You don't have to be perfect. I was never a perfect student. And I like that you said that, and you got to have that abundance mentality, because there's just so many jobs, and you have to be thinking like, I don't need to get this job. That's where really the best attitude to have when you do anything, is you don't need it, because you don't. If you don't get this one, then there's 10 more, and then there's 10 more, and there's 10 more. So if you guys are watching this, I know that's a big concern people have. God, I need this job. No, you don't. There are literally 50,000 more jobs, 70,000 more jobs for you. So that's my little pep talk in the middle of this interview. So you did the course, you generated your experience, you followed all the instructions with the right mindset. And then why don't you tell people about what happened when you were like in the process of applying for jobs, and like maybe even your first contract gig? Because I know this 6-figure job is not your first job you got out of the course. It's your second job, right? Within a couple of months.
Yeah. So really cool experience. I started the course in May, kind of blew through it the very first time. So I went through the course really quickly the first time. But as I got to creating your own experience, I thought, I might as well go and start applying for jobs now, because I'm going to take the course again. Really cool thing happened. I had probably about 15 companies reach out that were interested. So I go through the interview process and end up landing a job with a website company that was looking to bring on a paid media specialist. So it was a contract role, very small company. So it was really cool to just get on board with them and understand. And this was outside of me building my own Google ads and then having running my own campaigns, for 50 cents a day, and really starting out small, but understanding how to build a campaign and the nuances of campaign. This was my first hands-on experience with this company. And it was really cool because when I started the job, I came in as a project strategist. My role was to sell. But then each brainstorming session we would have, I would talk more about paid media and how we could reach more people in paid media, and it would definitely help us salespeople out. So eventually the owner kind of bought into the fact that we needed to do some type of paid advertising, and then just gave me full reins. I was like, let's go after it. So after that, I set up a Google account, Microsoft account. And within about 3 weeks, we were starting to get some decent leads. There were still some problems that we had, like on the landing pages and then the copywriting, some things that were outside of my team and my obligations to the company, but I tried to work with those sectors. So it was really cool just to see with this new company that never started a paid media, never had that before, how we kind of gelled together and created a paid media environment within this company.
That's awesome, man. So you're already established in your career. You already have the sales skill set. So I could tell you're a hustler, and you were out there and you were able to persuade these people to, whether you started in a sales role and transitioned into paid media, you're obviously moving and shaking and making things happen, and adding, what you're really doing is adding the digital marketing skill set to your existing skill set and becoming like supercharged, is what it sounds like to me. Because you could have just as easily, it sounds like, just been a normal salesperson, but you took them to another level. And that was all still it was like you got was this when you, like, I think you said you were making like $25 an hour at this job, right?
So the contract position was $25 an hour. There was no benefits, not really a set hourly schedule for the week. But I took it upon myself to work as much as I can and just really kind of just dive deep into the paid media aspect of the company, really learning more about the company since they were a website builder. So understanding how they targeted their customers, what their SEO tactics were, because at this point in time, they didn't have any type of paid media presence and very little social presence. So they were hustlers, from more of an organic standpoint, but they did understand and realize that there was an advantage of using paid media to attract customers outside of their current.
Right. And they were probably intimidated by that until you showed up and were able to offer your expertise. And let me just ask you this about that. So was this full-time at the time, or was this part-time?
It was considered a full-time role, but unfortunately I was only getting maybe about 25 to 30 hours a week just because of the contracts that they had. There wasn't enough to go around.
Got it. But that's still, you were still in your like generate experience section where a lot of people are working for free or for very low, which is what I encourage you to do, because this is like better than an internship. This is better than, these poor kids who are paying $50,000 a year to learn nothing. Yeah. You're not just getting paid, you're getting, the experience and to put on your resume and the knowledge, but also, I do get some people who are like mid-career like you, and I know you were making, before you got laid off, you were making decent money, right? You were making, in close to six figure or in the six figures?
Yeah, I was in the mid six figure range.
Right. This is an interesting thing, guys. And also when you get the skill set, you guys who have leveled up and you've gotten to 60, 80, 100K, you're going to stay there. It's an interesting thing about earnings. It's like once you get up to a certain level, things will happen in your life. There'll be ups and downs, but you've reached a certain level of awareness and a certain level where you're going to find yourself back in that position, which is a really amazing thing. And you obviously, you were used to making a certain amount of money. You were willing to, so the $25 an hour you were making for some of my students in their early 20s, that's amazing. That's like twice as much as what their peers who graduated college are making. For someone like you, it was less than you were used to making, but you looked at it as an education and experience building towards a bigger goal. So I think it's great that you had that attitude. Now, how long did you stay in this position and how did it lead to your current position?
So I stayed in this role for about 4 months. And one of the reasons why I decided to leave, there was a little pushback about the paid media. So half the company was kind of split on, we don't need paid media. The other half was like, hey, we do need it. We're driving traffic and we see the benefit in it. So there was a little bit of pushback from the company. Some people that I work with are very close to the owners, so they had him in their ear. So there was a lot of a lot of debates that I was losing just because I wasn't as close to the owner as I would like to have been. But during this time, I knew that I really wanted to get a full-time position. I knew I needed benefits. I knew there were certain things. I was coming up on a year of not having full-time employment. So I knew that I've learned a lot on this company with 3 months. I knew that the actual campaigns, setting the campaigns, running campaign audits, I'd done a really good job. And for a very short amount of time, the 3 weeks of running ads, we were able to bring on 5 or 6 different leads, and we were able to close those website leads for almost 30 grand. So I realized that the ROI had been there, and I'd hit enough of building out these campaigns to prove to myself that I know what it is that I'm doing. So that gave me the confidence to go ahead and start applying for other positions. Now, as I'm applying, I kind of kept, and this is one of those things that just completely honest. I looked for positions that were pretty much between $40,000 to $70,000. So I thought this right here is where my skill set's at. This is where my education is. I'm really looking at jobs in this. I don't want to get a job where I'm making 170, where I have so much pressure on me to produce, and I've not necessarily hit that level yet of PPC knowledge. So really started going after smaller level jobs, was interviewing multiple jobs at this particular point in time, different kind of roles. So different level of PPC. There was PPC analyst roles, there was PPC managers, there was SIM manager roles. So there was a lot of different kind of roles that I was kind of applying for during this process. And for whatever reason, the Sayari team, when I interviewed with them, the process that I followed from creating your experience, take a step back. So actually, before I interviewed with Sayari, I had several companies that I was really interested in, but I wasn't able to get over the hump. And I actually had a call with Xavier or Nicholas about this, they would always, the question would come up, what is your budget? What's the most amount of budget you've ever spent before? And at this point in time, the most I'd spent was $25 a day. So I would try to spend things out and say, okay, I've created budgets of, $1,000 a month. I've done, $15,000 a year PPC budgets, but it was never enough, right? It was always, well, we're looking for people that have, $100,000 a month of buyer's experience, or the number they're looking for.
I'm going to interrupt you because this is a good point, guys. And remember, most of my students you've seen interviews did not have $100,000 a month experience when they got their first job. And I'm convinced that if you hadn't gotten this job, you would have found one eventually, not eventually, I think sooner rather than later, where they weren't, again, depending on the pay level of where you're starting out at, it wouldn't have been like that. But I'm curious, at this previous company, what were you spending? Because you just said you made $30,000 in sales for these guys. That's a hell of an ROI off of a small budget. What were you spending?
Our budget was $50 a day. We'd increased it to $50 a day.
$50 a day.
$50 a day.
$1,500 a month. That is nothing, dude.
Yep.
Wow. And you made them 30 grand off of.
Yep. Because one website build is about $20,000. So with the discounts that we gave, we were able, with a $1,500, $1,800 a month budget, we were able to bring in almost 10x that the first 40 days that I've ran the campaign.
That is a company that I mean, I'm glad you're not there because that with that kind of ROI, I know I've seen clients who are that stingy, but they're like a small business that has like very little profit margin. But if you're making that kind of money per sale, I mean, when I used to work at the rehab place, I mean, they're making $30,000 to $60,000. That's just normal in any, the rehab industry because of insurance. So we would spend a lot more than $50 a day. I mean, you're spending $50 a click. So that company didn't understand paid media. And I'm amazed that they didn't see the value in that. That's crazy to me. I mean, dude, there's no other way you can spend that little and make that much. So, I mean, they should have hired you, paid you really well and said, keep doing this, but they didn't. So, but you ended up at a better position. But anyway, guys, just referring to that. Yeah. And I would have really focused in on that kind of a result because that is an incredible result. But anyway, so, other companies were saying you needed to have more ad spend experience. I get that. And then what happened?
So, like I said, I had the call with Nicholas, and what he did was telling me to get ahead of that conversation. As you're interviewing, go ahead and just kind of get ahead of it. Talk about the budgets if you work with, and then really build a story about if you could increase the budgets or if you had larger budgets, this right here is what you would do as well. So what I did is I took the 60-day roadmap that's inside of the Generating Your Experience section, along with the pre-campaign, the PPC campaign that you're able to go through and put your keywords, negative keywords. So I built that out I spent many hours working on that. And then the 60-day roadmap, I turned into a 30, 60, 90-day plan and presented that and kind of put fictitious numbers that I've done now based on the campaign that I was running at the current job, the contractor job that I was working with. So I put those numbers in and then kind of put, hey, these were the numbers based on the campaigns that we ran. If we would increase our numbers, this is where we would be at. And I kind of seen their eyes open up. This is the interview that I didn't get, but the company, they understood there that I understood what budgets were about. And from there on, I would use that.
Wait a second. That was at a company you didn't get the job.
I didn't get the company. I didn't get the job with that, but so I got ahead of that question.
Yeah. Right. So guys, this is a lot of really good stuff. By the way, there is so much stuff in the course that sometimes I forget. And Nick and Andrea and Xavier have all added in so much more content. So what you're just referring to is in the job section, there is actually a lot of resources about how to put together presentations too, as you said. Just communicate your value and your vision because you don't have to have come in having already managed $100,000. You can, I think that was great advice. Get ahead of the conversation and show them that you're thinking big and you know how to think big. And you just made a great point, which is you're going to have so many interviews, guys. If you keep your energy level up, there's so many jobs. You got to look at it like practice. You got to look at it like auditions, actors who audition, they're always going on auditions. They're always practicing and you didn't get the job, but you had great practice and you saw a difference in the reaction. So now you're prepared for the next interview even more. And was your current job the next interview or one?
Yeah. So that was really cool because I'd kind of practiced with this company, really was interested in this role, didn't get the job. I came in second place, third place to someone that had more experience than me, but I felt really comfortable talking about not only the numbers that I've worked with before, the budgets that I've worked with, but how budgets, if I work with increased budgets, how I could bring in more leads. And that's kind of what the company I work with, Sayari, that's what kind of sold them, was the fact that out of all the people they interviewed, I was the only person that had a game plan for now and a future game plan for a budget that I didn't even know what existed yet. I had no idea what the budget was during the interview process, but I did give a couple of numbers and a couple of scenarios. If I had this amount of budget, this is the ROI that we're able to bring. This is the ROAS we're able to bring in, and kind of just had high level numbers. These are the click-through rates, and kind of went through all that information with fictitious numbers, just based on the preliminary research that I did in the industry. And they absolutely loved it and told me I went above and beyond what other candidates did in the interview process. And I owe that to you and your team.
That's my pleasure, man. I'm so happy for you. And again, it's a great example of what's possible. And you stood out. I mean, that's what I love hearing these stories, because that's what I want you guys to do. I mean, you clearly stood out from other candidates. You clearly provided value. And I mean, I'm just curious, like when you applied for the job, did you know the salary or did,
No.
No, the salary?
I had no idea. I knew what the salary range was. And what's interesting, a lot of these jobs, they put the salary range, and it's kind of like when you start interviewing, they're like, well, we pay based on experience. And I heard this so many times thinking, oh, wow, I'm going to get paid, 40, 50K because that's the experience that I have. Not only did I not know what the salary, I knew the salary range. I didn't know what the exact salary for this position was, nor did I know that it was a manager's role either. But I kind of went in with the mindset that, once again, the generating your own experience, getting the job section, kind of talked about, this is how I'd run my team. And, I had that mindset coming from the contractor role that I had, since I did have a design person on my team and I had someone that was helping me build landing pages. So they were part of my team. So I just used that conversation and used that talk track for the new role. And it worked out because I talked more than just myself. I really talked about interdepartment relationship, working with different people within the organization, cross functionality of agency. So I talked a high level talk track and conversation of, it's not just me, we're working with multiple people within the team as well. And I think, not only that, but being able to show the pre-campaign audit, the 30, 60, 90-day roadmap, and me talking from a very high level really interested them for me for this particular role. So it was just kind of like the perfect trifecta.
That's amazing. And I want to get more into that. I think you brought up a great point, guys. The way I teach the course, I want you to know a little bit about everything. And I had a similar experience when I got my in-house job, because they could tell, they hired me to be the paid media guy. But I also had big visions, and, I also knew about SEO, and I knew about all the different aspects of things. And that is another, I know that they ended up, when I got hired, they ended up pushing me into managerial positions because they wanted someone who had that kind of a vision. Now, if you just want to work at an agency, which a lot of my students do, and you want to be totally focused on paid PPC day in, day out, that is awesome. A lot of people love that. But you can also have the option of, pivoting to a position like this. And when you talk to an in-house company, this is what you want to do, because remember, when you work at an agency, you're surrounded by other experts, other PPC and digital marketing experts who know the stuff. When you go in-house, you're the expert. And if you can come out as a leader and be persuasive, then they will want to work with you. So you're a great example of that. So what was it like when you got the job and found out the salary? Like, how did that go?
Yeah, I mean, that was really cool. So, once again, I was still interviewing at this point in time. There were several companies that came down. And once again, I didn't know Sayari was going to be the company that I was going to land at. And once I got on with them, I didn't realize the benefits that this company had. So there was still another role I was interested in. Super bummed that I didn't get that role. It was a SIM role. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because the responsibilities were a lot more for that particular role than what it is that I'm doing now. So I would definitely have my work cut out for me at a lesser salary. And I wouldn't be in a position where I'm able to work with a team, an agency as well. So got the job, or got the call, and they were like, Steven, we love the way you interviewed. Things are very interesting. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Like what's going on? Let's find out. So the HR lady got on the phone and she's like, there's certain things that about this role, and kind of went into the company itself, the Series C funding, talked about how, they've kind of operated as a small company before, but moving forward, they're going to act more of a corporation and all that good stuff. And then just came out with the salary. Hey, we're going to offer you, $100,000, actually $105,000. So you have a sign-on bonus and all these extra perks. And I was like, wow, like that's pretty cool. Like these are some of the perks I get as a sales rep that I never anticipated in the digital marketing space. So, of course it's, let me check let me talk to my girlfriend. Let me go check and see if these things are good before I make a decision with the company. But once I got off, I was like, holy crap. Yes. Like, this is what I'm looking for. Like, this is the step that I wanted to get into. So I was uber excited, called back 15 minutes later and told me, I accept the offer and I accept everything you give me. Let's go. Let's get started.
Hold on. Let me check with my girlfriend. Yep.
Yep. She's happy.
Yeah. That's really remarkable, Stephen. And I do think it is a testament to, like, because you had an intention, and you had, I'm into like, a lot of sort of mindset related things. You had an intention, and you had this previous experience in sales, and you could see how you landed this very unique opportunity that was perfect for you. And you even said you wanted to work in software, and now you're working in software, right?
Yeah. And that was half the battle for me, was really getting inside of the industry I already knew, Seth, digital marketing itself, this was already so brand new for me. The learning curve was so high to get in and understand, PPC or Google ads, Bing ads. So I thought, this is going to be a high enough learning curve for me. Why not get an industry that I kind of already have a base understanding? So that way it's not so difficult for me to come in and be able to show my value very early on. So if I would have got into e-commerce, which I don't have an e-commerce background, that would have been too much for me personally, because I would have to learn e-commerce and then learning paid ads as well. For me now, really already understand software. It's just understanding the nuances of the industry and how my campaigns can fit inside that industry, which to me is a lot less stress and not as much of a learning curve as it would have been if I went into a different industry.
That's so great. And guys, there's so many options. Like, you can be like Steven and have an experience in a particular, like, I think Morgan's a great example. You guys are like polar opposites, because she was 19, never had a job, just out of high school, but she's passionate about mental health. And then she ended up getting her first job at a mental health facility. So she had a passion for the industry. And I'm sure that had to do with her getting hired, because they could see that she was already tuned into what they were doing and she was bringing her digital skill sets. And then there's people who work in an agency and they're selling cars or iPod cases, and they've never worked with that before, but they're just so passionate about digital that they can do that. So there's just there's so many different options. So that's awesome, man. So thanks for sharing your whole journey here. I'm going to start to wrap it up. So we've been talking for a while, but can you just tell people like a little bit about how this has changed your life and like what the job is like and all the good stuff?
Yeah. So once again, my mindset was to kind of get out of sales, right? Get out of corporate sales. One of the things that I realized that if you can sell for a company, you can sell for yourself. And that's the mindset that I always had. But for me, it was to get out of sales, figure out a new skill and push myself into something different. So digital marketing is just one of those industries to me that I've always looked up to. It was always foreign. Working as a sales rep, the marketing department was always foreign. Like, what are those guys doing over there? I never had a clue. But for me, when I started to understand that the family of marketing and how sales fits into the marketing family, I realized that I did have a seat at the table. So anyone that's out there that's kind of doubting themselves or questioning whether you can do this or not, I would say go through the course multiple times. There's multiple different niches within digital marketing that you're going to find out that you're better at than others. For me, SEO just wasn't my game. Backlinks drive me crazy. Trying to figure out how to backlink and no follows and do follows just wasn't for me, right? But what I did like is reading Dan Kennedy's books, understanding some copywriting that paid ads is nothing more than salesman in print. So for me as a sales rep, I really caught on to the nuances of paid media. I really love creating landing pages. I really enjoy copywriting, because as a sales rep, it's the same thing that you're doing. It's just not in person, it's in print. So find out what it is that you like to do, find out what you love in the digital marketing space, and then just learn as much as you can about it. Seth has so many great resources inside of the course. There's so many areas that he sends you to outside of his course if you want to dig a little bit deeper into those areas. I just say take full advantage of it and just learn as much as you can and have fun with it. This is a fun industry. And even if you don't know, and I go back to Seth's, it was either a LinkedIn post or a Facebook post that you posted about 2 months ago about, you went through this whole diatribe about, if you know this much in Google ads, or you know this much in Facebook ads, you know more than 99% of the world, right? And to me, that's something I took a screenshot of and I keep it on my laptop and my cell phone, because when things get hard, or I feel like I can't learn something, and guys, it's not necessarily easy. Like, you just have to stick with it and keep going. But there's times that we all get down, and I go back and look at that and I'm like, wow, I understand how to set up Google ad campaigns. I understand Bing campaigns. I'm not the greatest at Facebook, but I understand I understand how the campaigns work. So for me, I'm still ahead of 99% of everyone else in the country. So that keeps me going, and that's motivation for everyone else in the course. You don't have to be special. I'm nothing special at all. I'm just someone who tried, who had a plan, who had a framework, and executed on that framework. Just do the same. Go after it. It's there for us.
That's awesome, man. That post, maybe I'll post it publicly, but I wrote that like on the fly off the top of my head. It was just inspired me. And I think maybe I'll post it on LinkedIn, because I thought it was pretty darn clever. Because I basically was telling people like seriously, if you even know what digital marketing is, you're ahead of, I think I said 90% of the population. If you know what Google ads are, you're ahead of 90. Like, you're ahead of everybody. I literally literally it was actually, I have to do this post about CNBC. There was an article like, these are the hot new careers for the next decade. And literally it was like massage therapist and like pet groomer, some crazy, like what moron wrote this article? It doesn't say anything about anything digital. I was like, literally these jobs are exploding, and I'd never see it in any of the major publications. So you literally are ahead of everybody else. But you know, I love your energy, your enthusiasm. And again, guys, if you're watching this, and if you're over 25 and you've kind of been wondering, am I too old for this? No. You know, I've had people as old in their 50s and 60s. It's all about your mindset and your attitude and your aptitude. You know, if you're 20 and you have the attitude of like, you have like a slow attitude, it's not for you. You could be in your 60s or 70s, but, and if you have a fast attitude and like a great, you know, you're a team player, you're eager to learn, you're enthusiastic, that's what matters. Yep. And, you know, if you're watching this, you're probably not too old, man. I mean, if Steven's 38, I'm going to be 44 very soon. So, I mean, you don't have to be 20 to get a job. You can transition in very creative ways. And then just quickly, what I was actually like, so this is a remote job. So do you enjoy what you're doing every day?
I do. I enjoy it. What I really like is a collaboration with the team. It's really cool working with people that are specialists in their own segments and how their thought processes are. So I'm always learning. I'm always picking up nuggets of information, whether it's an SEO guy or an email gal or someone that's in content. There's always information that you can pick up based on their viewpoint and how they see things. So it's so cool. And that's one of the things that I enjoy the most is the cross platform or cross industry collaboration, working with different people that may not understand paid media, but they understand how to position a product or how to position the software or the verbiage to use inside of email marketing, right? So there's so many strengths that people have. And once you get with these people and you start to collaborate and start to brainstorm, you realize, wow, that's an area that I'm missing in paid media that I could utilize, or that type of language I could use for someone that's in the middle of my sales funnel. So it's just having those conversations and understanding where the other departments are coming from. And just, once again, everyone is their genius in their own right. So try to learn as much information as you can from others. It's only going to make you better.
That's the right attitude. That's awesome. I'm really happy that you're enjoying yourself. Obviously happy for how much money you're making. And it sounds like, I mean, you sounds like you said there's less pressure at this job than it probably would have been in an agency job. So you have the work-life balance. It's remote. This is really awesome. So I'm going to wrap it up, but is there anything you want to say to me or anyone watching the video before we go?
I just want to say thanks to Seth. I truly appreciate the course that he put out. It's life-changing for me, and I preach it to anyone who's looking to do something different. It kind of goes back to what you're saying right now. You read these articles online of the hottest new industry and the hottest jobs and all this and that, and you realize, is it really? But then you go look at digital marketing, go to LinkedIn, go to Indeed, and you look at how many jobs are there and how many jobs are available and what people are looking for. It's wide open. I've got some friends and family now, and I tell them, you don't like your job or you're not working, there's no excuse not to get into digital marketing. It's at this point in time, it's just an attitude and a mindset thing. But those of us who are involved in the industry and those who are looking to increase your career, increase your skill set, follow Seth's course, follow it to a T, go through it multiple times. I've gone through the course 4 times, and I plan on going through it again, just for the simple fact, each time I go through, there's new information that I pick up every single time. Plus, like Seth said, he's always updating the course. So there's always new material. There's just, right now, there's no excuse. If you're a part of Seth's course, there's no excuse to be in the position that I'm in. And once again, I'm nothing special. I just had a plan and executed on my plan, and others can do it as well. Awesome,
man. Thanks for that. I think it's great advice, and I appreciate your enthusiasm. And again, guys, I'm not making this up. This isn't like, make 10K in 5 minutes. This is like, go on LinkedIn, go on Indeed. You will see these giant companies. I mean, like, what did I see? I mean, I always see these huge corporations, hiring for these positions. Like, it was like Crate and one of my students working at like Crate and Barrel. It's like these big companies are all hiring. So they need people to do this job. And there's so many industries, like you just found the most random niche industry that was in software, which is what you wanted, making more money than you thought you could make because you thought you were going to be making 40,000, you're making 100,000. You're working for this software company that works with banks that none of us has ever heard of and probably never will, because unless you plan on buying a bank, which would be great. But I think it's an amazing story. Thanks for sharing it. And, let's stay in touch and we'll do a follow-up. And I look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Absolutely, Seth. Thanks for everything.